and welcome to this week's episode of Translate Relate. And this week we are going to be talking about racket feelings and psychological
trading stamps.
Trading stamps. I forgot the word psychological then. I'm Jenna, this is Becky, and yeah, this is our channel Translate Relate, where we talk about all things transactional analysis. Yes. So I'm going to be looking at racket feelings, and I must admit I do struggle with the word. And like how when we were looking at drivers and injunctions, I needed more information about what the word injunction meant before it made sense to me. So I'm going to read the bit about where the racket term comes from. So when Byrne originally described this behaviour, Byrne used the term racket, which is a phrase that links back to the mafia. Just as business owners would pay for a protection racket to stop anything happening to their businesses, our racket feelings protect us from the risk that our authentic feelings will be punished or denied by our caregivers. Because of the links that term rackets has to mafia, these feelings are now commonly described as substitute feelings by many TA practitioners. So again, we're thinking about the time that it was written in the 50s, and I think I do struggle with the term rackets, but the substitute feelings, totally on board with that.
Mm-hmm.
Have you got any preference? Or?
I think I'd probably more commonly refer to them as substitute feelings, but it may be that both slip out at some point. But whichever word it is, they mean the same thing. Yeah.
So when we look at first I'll look at the characteristics. So different people have different feelings with the same situation. So different people responding to different things. The feelings that you experience it with a wide range of stresses. So if you get angry, you'll get angry all the time, no matter what the stress is. And that's your go-to. The feeling that was modelled by the family, while other feelings were forbidden. And we were talking before we started filming, and I was saying about how my little brother would run, he'd fall over, and I'd be like, come on, run it off, it'll be fine. And that could cause him he could interpret that as a forbidden feeling, like, oh, I can't be sad, I can't be upset, I can't be hurt, don't feel, I just need to carry on and be strong. And the last characteristic is the feeling doesn't solve the problem. So when I shout, the problem's still there. And when we look at the formation of how racket feelings are developed, so we've got the natural child expresses a need and that need isn't met. So then what happens is that child then escalates that feeling. And you've got a really good example, which we'll talk about in a minute. So we've got the natural child having a feeling, having a need, expressing that as an authentic expression. So back to the example, my little brother, he might cry, for example. And then I say, oh no, run it off. And then how he interprets that. So he might cry even more, or he might have the be strong, where he's like, no, I can't have this feeling. This is not an acceptable feeling. Jen says this is not an acceptable feeling to have. And then that's a substitute feeling. So then with the racket, you bypass that kind of flow chart, if you will, of I'll try this, that doesn't work. I'll try this, no, that doesn't work. And then what happens is you go from that to that, and that is then the feeling that's expressed. And you were saying before about we can then start to develop a lack of awareness of we think this is our authentic feeling.
Yeah, because if we get used to constantly skipping what the authentic feeling is, we never got stroked for that authentic feeling. So we soon learn this is not the one to have, this is not the one to express. I'll skip to the other one, then can get lost in translation what the authentic feeling actually is, because we use that substitute feeling all the time.
And I really like that as well, that we didn't get stroked for this. So what do you get stroked for? So in that situation with my little brother, I'm not, and I feel really bad now talking about it, but I'm not then comforting him. So I'd be like, oh, where does it hurt? Where's it hurt? Oh, yeah, come on. But just because I can't see anything on his knee doesn't mean it doesn't really hurt. So he wasn't stroked for being in pain. He was stroked for just getting on with it.
Yeah. I mean, you're playing that phase, but I think any or many older siblings, parents, grandparents will recognise that behaviour. I've definitely done that with my own children. And as we've said many, many times before in the podcast, once you know better, you can try and do better. So once you understand actually the impact that could have by not stroking them for the fact that they were hurt and they were sad, and instead, oh, well done, haven't you done well? Yeah, that's it, off you go, carry on having fun. Oh, maybe there's an impact that I could have there. But what we can never forget is the we can all think part.
Mm-hmm.
And just because that's what you said doesn't mean that that's necessarily a racket feeling or a substitute feeling that your brother formed, because he can think for himself and he can decide for himself how he interprets the words and the actions that come from you.
Yeah.
So don't forget that.
Yeah.
That's what I cling to with my children anyway.
Yeah, but it just shows. And I think what it's making me think about is how when I was doing my nurse training, I would, shout, I would speak loudly to anyone with grey hair because I needed to with my nan and granddad. And it wasn't until someone said, I'm not deaf, you know, you don't need to. And I was like, oh gosh, yeah, that was a really, really silly thing to think. Whereas now, you know, when you know better, you can do better. It's like, okay, well, I know better now, so I can do better now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel okay about that now. Thank you.
Good. I'm glad.
Do you want to give us your example?
Let's go look at the psychological trading stamps first, and then we'll use the example to tie it all together. So we don't always then express those substitute or those racket feelings as they happen. And instead, what we do is collect them like people used to collect like supermarket stamps. And instead of then trading in our full stamp card for a nice big gift or, you know, whatever it was that the supermarket would have, we exchange it for a huge outburst. But because we've done it with a full card, we can have this huge outburst and it can be completely guilt-free because we're totally justified in it, because look, like our card was full all these times when I've had these feelings and I've not let them out. Here we go. Now I'm trading in my card and I'm going to roll with it. So the example that I had, so I've got a character, I've called him Dave. So Dave's stuck with his homework and he starts to get really upset because he just can't figure it out. And his mum tells him to stop being so silly, there's no need to cry about homework. She ignores him, she carries on what she's doing, and he doesn't get any help. So then he screws his homework sheet up and he picks the sheet up and his pen and he throws them across the room and he bangs his hand on the table in frustration. This one gets his mum's attention and she tells him off. But don't forget, telling off still means he's getting stroked for that behaviour. So now he's being stroked for it. He's got her attention and now she sits down and she helps him. And then when he gets stuck again, he repeats the same thing again. And he learns that it's not until he's got angry and he's thrown something across the room that he gets the attention that he needs. So as the time goes on, he skips the crying stage. He no longer cries because that didn't get him any strokes. And he goes straight to the anger and the frustration instead. Dave's now an adult. He's now all grown up and he's started working. One day the printer gets jammed and he can't figure out how to fix it. And all his noises of frustration they're not resulting in any help from his co-workers. He picks the printer up and he throws it out the window. Now, what happened to Dave as a child, I don't really know, but Dave was an actual colleague of mine, not actually called Dave, just for the record. He was quite famous for picking up bits of machinery and throwing them out of the window, or picking up mugs and throwing them out of the window. For example, mobile phones, I think a few of them went as well. But because whenever he got frustrated that he couldn't do something, he didn't always throw a printer. You know, maybe it was just maybe he just swore under his breath, maybe he just did a little bang of his fist on the table. When it got to the point that he's then throwing the printer out the window, he felt perfectly justified in it because his his stamp card was full. His stamp card was full. He hadn't responded, all those other times. So by the time it comes to it, yep, for him, totally appropriate response in the situation, he felt.
I'm trying to think times. I don't think I throw the printer out, but I think I am at risk of doing that, where I'm like, wow, I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 things, and acknowledging that. I do think I acknowledge it. I don't throw printers out the window or have outbursts, but I do definitely acknowledge the stamps that I have collected.
All those times when I did this for you.
Yeah, I do. But we were talking about script and how that's definitely something that I'm kind of looking at now, and it's how. So games for me, drama triangle for me was a big thing. Right, okay, work on that, move to the next thing. So for me, it's almost like I'm not completing these levels, but I'm like going on to the next level.
Yeah. And
then once I've completed all the levels, then I'll go back and I don't know if you did the dance map at the arcade.
At the arcades.
So you can have difficulty rating where it's like easy, medium, hard.
Yeah.
And then that depends how many like arrows you get or something. But it's still the same song. So I feel that's what I'm doing with TA. Like I've got my easy, so I've got like my arrows and my lights are going off, and then I'll complete it all, and then I'll go like on medium level, and then I'll go back again. So yeah, the trading stamps, I feel I'm on level 2.
Level 2.
And
the thing is, it's then starting to get an idea of how they all link together, and thinking about all the other elements of TA that we've discussed so far, and again, racket or substitute feelings, and our kind of psychological trading stamps, all very much part of our script. They all form those building blocks, and it's starting to realise how those things piece together for then the overall impact that it has on our lives.
Yeah, and when we do decide to make a difference, recognising that that's going to have some discomfort as well, because it's new. So like learning how to drive, it's a new skill. It doesn't come straight away, so there's a lot of conscious thought effort, and it's a bit clunky. So then when we think, okay, well, I'm not gonna have these substitute feelings, I'm gonna attempt to explore my authentic feelings. Firstly, work out what those authentic feelings are. But at first it's a lot of effort to put in. It's clunky, it's uncomfortable, like things don't go right. But then the more you do it, the more practice that you put into it, it's like, okay, yeah, why was I carrying all of these substitute feelings when now I've developed ways of expressing my authentic feelings?
Yeah. And, this is one that I'm definitely still kind of uncovering for myself around what are my substitute feelings? Where is it that they come into play a lot? And I've identified a couple that I think, oh yeah, okay, this isn't really what I'm feeling in this situation. This is a jump that I've learned to make, and trying to untangle that and work backwards, but still finding bits come up all the time, and that's okay, and I'm really okay with that. And for anyone that's watching, I'd really encourage you to be okay with that. That it's a process. It takes time. It's like I'm on the other one of the other episodes around script, and I was saying I hadn't realised about my don't be important injunction. But once you are, that's when you can start to examine it. And with all these things as well, don't be surprised if it's more difficult to change those behaviours with the people that are closest to you. So when you start thinking about your substitute behaviours, the ones that are closest to you tend to be the ones where the stakes are a bit higher for making those changes with. So if expressing your authentic feelings to the members of your family who've never seen them before, they've got used to 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years of you doing using your substitute feelings, then start with someone that's wider on your circle, whoever that might be. That could be I don't know, the person in the coffee shop, or whatever.
Well, I was talking about when I went to the group, and when we were doing script, and I was like, do you know what? new people, I'm going to see how this feels. Try this on for size.
Yeah, because the stakes are a lot lower. And as you get psychologically closer to people, the stakes become higher and it becomes a bit more difficult. So start where the stakes are low.
Yeah, I like that. Anything else to add or homework?
No, I think we'll just move on to the homework bit. Yeah.
So considerations for this week. So what feelings are you expressing that maybe aren't helpful or appropriate in that situation? And what did you get stroked for as a child? So was it to be strong? And I think that's something that I can relate to, and something that I'm definitely going to explore a little bit more now as well. So what behaviour, what feelings expressed were you rewarded for with strokes? And that's it for this week. So next week we are talking about discounting and passivity. So hopefully you can join us there.